Roman Legionnaire 70 CE, with a shield, gladius, spear, helmet, and segmented or mail armor. The Legionary was built for tight, controlled violence. Rome drilled endurance marches, formation discipline, and routine engineering into muscle memory, then backed it with roads, supply depots, and siege specialists. The siege of Jerusalem in 70 CE was the moment they were seen as powerful. Systematic siege works, relentless rotations, and a fortified city reduced by method. Over time, overstretch, civil wars, budget strain, and higher tempo frontier threats pushed Rome toward new troop mixes and eroded the legionary's peak edge. Parthian horse archer, 161 CE. Typical kit was a composite bow plus big quiver, light lamellar or scale armor, a saber, and fast horses. Elite companions might also carry a long Kantos lance. Parthia built dominance by producing riders at scale through noble estates, horse culture, and tactics that kept enemies stressed. Constant missile pressure, flank hits, and baited pursuit. In 161 CE at Eligea, a Roman force under Severinus was destroyed, and the region got a clear message about what Parthian cavalry could do when it controlled the pace. Their edge didn't last forever. Rome regrouped and pushed deep into Mesopotamia, capturing and burning Ctesiphon in 165 CE, and the Arsacid system later collapsed when Ardashir I overthrew Parthian rule in 224 CE. Sassanian Cataphract, 260 CE. Sassanian heavy cavalry had become a prestige weapon backed by wealth, elite horse culture, and battlefield doctrine built around decisive shock. Armored riders with long lances hit hardest after archers and lighter cavalry had already stressed an enemy line. Edessa in 260 CE, where a Roman emperor was captured, broadcast Sassanian power across the region and made their cavalry arm feel terrifyingly real. Over time, the cost of maintaining elites, grinding wars, and political instability reduced resilience, and a fast-moving new opponent arriving into an exhausted state accelerated the collapse of their dominance. Late Roman field soldier, 357 CE. In the 4th century, Roman dominance shifted toward mobile field armies designed for constant frontier crisis. Disciplined infantry corps, better staff work, and mixed support that could respond fast and hold cohesion in chaotic fights. Strasbourg in 357 CE showed late Roman battlefield control at full volume formation discipline, pressure applied in layers, and a major enemy coalition beaten cleanly. The era of dominance weakened as migrations intensified, cavalry threats expanded, and repeated fiscal and political crises forced reliance on regional solutions, allied troops, and a more cavalry-centered balance. Hunnic steppe horse archer, 447 CE. The Hunnic warrior became dominant through a life built on horseback. Composite bows, multiple remounts, and a culture that trained mobility and coordination from childhood. They pressured morale and stamina first, then punished disorder with encirclement and relentless missile fire. Attila's Balkan campaign in 447 CE, forcing massive concessions and tribute, marked the moment settled empires recognized the steppe model as a strategic nightmare. Their dominance ended when unity cracked after leadership succession. Subject peoples peeled away, neighbors coordinated coalitions, and fortified defenses improved enough to shrink the payoff of raids. Byzantine combined arms cavalryman, 530 CE. Typically equipped with lamellar or mail, a Contarian lance, composite bow sword, and a small round shield, this cavalryman could switch roles mid-fight. Byzantines leaned hard on scouting, timing, reserves, and terrain control. Dara, 530 CE, is a signature professional win. Prepared positions plus timed cavalry strikes flipped the battle and showed how planned warfare beats raw pressure. Later, plague, exhausting wars, and territorial losses cut resources, shrinking the ability to field large elite forces and shifting the empire toward defensive survival. Rashidun mobile fighter, 636 CE. Common kit was practical: spear, sword, light shield, simple bows, with some mail and better armor appearing through trade and capture. Dominance came from cohesion and tempo fast marches, decisive leadership, and strong morale that kept units moving and fighting as one campaign rhythm. Yarmouk, 636 CE, announced this power to the region when a major imperial force broke in a defining defeat. The early style lost its unbeatable aura as expansion created political strain. Civil conflict and opponents adapted with deeper fort networks and more structured logistics. Carolingian heavy cavalryman, 774 CE. Mail hauberk, conical helmet, often with nasal, kite shield, lance, sword, and increasingly solid riding tack. This dominance grew from a system that could reliably fund and field armored mounted elites through land obligations and centralized campaigning. The conquest of the Lombard Kingdom, 774 CE, showed a Western war engine capable of sustained operations and political consolidation. Over time, fragmentation of central authority diluted this advantage, and later centuries built stronger infantry counters and defensive depth that reduced cavalry's ability to decide outcomes quickly on its own. Viking Raider, 860 CE. Round shield, spear, axe, seeks, sometimes a sword, with helmets and mail, more common among wealthier fighters. The real equipment advantage was the longship. Viking dominance came from mobility. Rivers and coasts became fast attack lanes, and fragmented states struggled to respond in time. The capture of York 866 CE proved Vikings could seize major cities and shape kingdoms, not just raid monasteries. Their dominance declined as states built forts, organized militias, improved naval response, and created early warning systems that made surprise harder and retaliation more likely. Ottonian armored cavalryman, 955 CE. Mail hauberk, nasal helmet, kite shield, lance, sword, spurs, and a strong warhorse. This is the mounted elite operating inside, improving state coordination. The 10th century's dominance came from better mustering and leadership that could concentrate cavalry at the right place and time. Lechfeld, 955 CE, became the defining moment. Raiding pressure was crushed decisively, and Central Europe's cavalry-backed order looked ascendant. Over time, cavalry's monopoly eroded as infantry discipline improved, cities funded militias, and anti-cavalry tactics matured. Crusader, heavy knight, 1099 CE. A Crusader knight showed up with mail hauberk, great helm, kite shield, lance, sword, or mace, and a warhorse. But what made this type feel different from earlier European cavalry was the full expedition package around him: priests and banners for cohesion, feudal retinues, allied infantry, and a mindset built for long-distance campaigning and siege-heavy conquest. The capture of Jerusalem in 1099 CE was the moment the whole world saw that Western heavy cavalry plus relentless siege warfare could carve out states far from home. This model faded as opponents learned to avoid clean cavalry fights, used mounted archers to drag knights into exhaustion, and attacked the real weakness: water, food, and supply routes, turning wars into slow attrition that punished expensive cavalry armies. Seljuk mounted archer, 1176 CE. Composite bow, light to medium armor, often lamellar. Saber, light lance, small shield, and fast horses, built to control distance all day. This dominance grew from a culture that produced mounted warriors at scale and tactics that punished heavy troops through fatigue and disorder. Myriokephalon 1176 CE made the message loud. An imperial campaign got mauled in constricting terrain under sustained harassment and ambush pressure. The edge weakened as enemies improved discipline and fortification networks, and the region's political structures were later shattered by larger invasions that rewired power. Mongol horse archer, 1241 CE, composite bow, lamellar armor, saber, lance, lasso, multiple remounts, and tight unit signaling, equipment tuned for speed plus coordination. Dominance came from organization, intelligence gathering, disciplined formations, wide maneuvers, and commanders who could coordinate big battles without losing tempo. Mohi 1241 CE became a global warning when a European army was outmaneuvered and shattered through encirclement and timing. Their dominance declined as succession politics fragmented unity, geography and fortified zones constrained campaigns, and opponents built deeper defenses that reduced the freedom to choose ideal fights. English Longbowman, 1346 CE. The kit was simple and brutal: yew, longbow, heavy arrows, often bodkin heads, dagger, light armor like a jack brigandine, helmet, and defensive stakes planted in front. Dominance came from mass training traditions and battlefield positioning that turned volleys into sustained pressure. Cressy, 4T46 CE, made the longbow legendary as charges lost momentum, horses fell, and formations collapsed under dense fire. The era faded as gunpowder weapons scaled faster for states and artillery became more decisive, while longbow mastery remained a long training pipeline. Swiss pikeman, 1476 CE. A long pike sidearm, many carrying halberds with helmets like sallets and mixed armor pieces. built around dense cohesion and aggressive advance. Swiss dominance grew from disciplined militia blocks that closed distance fast and held tight under pressure. Grandson, 1476 CE, turned them into a European obsession after an elite army broke and huge spoils followed. The reputation spread instantly. Their dominance declined when artillery and firearms punished dense formations before contact, and mixed gun and pike systems evolved to counter single-style infantry. Spanish Tercio soldier, 1525 CE, morion helmet, breastplate for many, sword, plus either a long pike or a matchlock arquebus with bandoliers. Kit designed for combined arms in one unit. Dominance came from veteran professionalism and cohesion that held through long fights and sieges. Pavia, 1525 CE, stamped the Tercio's authority when disciplined infantry and firearms helped capture a king and decide a major conflict. The model declined as more guns per frontage, better artillery, and evolving line tactics increased firepower and punished deep, dense formations, while Spain's finances strained under multi-front war. Swedish Reformed Infantryman, 1631 CE. Musket, still often matchlock early on, bandoliers, sword, some units still paired with pikes, lighter armor than earlier styles, and coordinated support from small regimental guns. Sweden's dominance grew from higher tempo. Simpler formations, cleaner volley coordination, and cavalry-artillery timing planned around decisive moments. Breitenfeld, 1631 CE, became the billboard victory where Europe watched modern coordination beat a major opponent and immediately started copying methods. The advantage shrank as rivals adopted similar reforms, expanded standing armies, and outscaled Sweden in manpower and resources. Prussian Infantryman, 1757 CE. Flintlock musket with socket bayonet, cartridge box, ramrod, uniform kit, and drill-built habits that made firing and maneuver predictable under stress. Dominance came from relentless training and tight officer control that kept lines stable when others broke. Leuthen, 1757 CE, showed disciplined movement and controlled volleys, defeating a larger enemy in a famous operational performance. This model lost top status when mass mobilization and flexible maneuver warfare expanded armies dramatically and made artillery integration and political momentum central, especially in the Revolutionary and Napoleonic era. Industrial Age Rifleman, 1866. Breech-loading rifles and bayonets, mass-issued ammunition, canteens, packs, and increasingly field-entrenching tools, plus the real kit upgrade, railways, and telegraph support behind the soldier. Dominance grew as conscription created huge armies and industry kept them fed and supplied, while rifles raised lethality for ordinary troops. Königgrätz Sadowa, 1866 CE, signaled the new age when modern mobilization and rifle fire helped deliver a decisive state-level outcome fast. The rifleman's headline era faded under machine guns, trenches, and heavy artillery concentration. Then armor and air power pushed infantry into combined arms survival. German Infantryman, 1940. Stahlhelm, field uniform, Kar 98K rifles, grenades, MG-34 and MG-42 style machine gun-centered squads, some SMGs, radios at key levels, and lots of fieldcraft tools. Dominance came from doctrine, machine gun firepower as the base, maneuver to flank, mission-style orders, and tight cooperation with engineers, artillery, armor, and air support. The France campaign from May to June 1940 became the shock moment as breakthroughs and encirclements unfolded at a pace that stunned the world. Defeat came through overreach and attrition, multi-front war, stretched supply, fuel shortages, Allied air superiority, and an industrial mismatch that crushed mobility and replacement quality. Like and subscribe for more.